Good afternoon guys, firstly hope all well and welcome back to my channel. So I am back, as you can tell from a title, I'm doing a sit down chat today. We are not doing a full day of eating, I know, surprise, right? But we're doing a 5 things ... It's something that I really want to introduce again, going through different topics, touching on things I've learned myself, things that you can apply to your own journey, whether that be through cutting, bulking, maintaining, etc. Just general life, what I wish I knew before I started my journey, and all of those things. So I really wanted to start making this a bit more frequent again because I enjoy sitting down and just chatting to you guys and not just always kind of doing a full day of eating. It's nice to spice it up. Let's excuse my backdrop. It's not ideal. We had a leak upstairs, which is great. Everything is a mess. There's not really a white wall that I can just sit at. It's been a whirlwind. 6 months off of the pill, guys. 6 months, which is crazy. And that's something I wanted to kind of touch on. I want to do a video actually at some point around coming off my pill, my own experience as well. So let's get into today's video. If there's anything you want to see in the coming weeks with these, obviously kind of sit down chats, etc., pop them down below. But otherwise, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get into today's video. So if you are new here, I like to have my trusty notebook. This is such a me thing. So make sure actually in these videos I can give you guys as much detail as possible and just make sure they're structured. And that's what I like. I'm a bit of a perfectionist like that. So I've got my 5 top tips to building muscle. As we know, I'm currently in a bulk. So I've done 2 months. Here's my check-in update from this week. Feeling good, weight has gone up. My cycle is due literally in a couple of days. So it doesn't surprise me that my kind of weight has gone up. Food obviously did go up at one point as well. But yeah, I'm feeling good. Training is going very, very well. So let's start off. Tip number 1. Training intensity. Now there's training and then there's going into the sessions and really training with the intent of pushing yourself to failure. If you're wanting to build muscle, I would really recommend focus on that progressive overload. So there's a couple of things I kind of want to touch on with this actual point itself. Now, if I put a video up here to start of my bulk, my hip thrusts were I was hitting 130. So I did 130 for 8, 130 for 10, and 120 for 10. So loading the back off. So if I fast forward to obviously this week, so that was week 1, if I fast forward to week 8, I am now doing 165 for 8 reps and 165 for 7 reps, and I've got 140 kilos in there. And I've literally added on 35 kilos onto what I was doing in week 1. And that is simply by week, pushing up more and more and more, obviously never compromising tempo or form, but you can see that I'm going into the sessions with wanting more out of those sessions. Each week, I'm kind of pushing up more and more and more, whether that's through an extra rep, whether that's for an extra kind of increase of weight, slowly. So you can see that I'm going in there with the intent of kind of wanting to push up more. And it's the same with all lifts, okay? There's going to be some lifts which obviously you can't kind of push up weight with, lateral raises. Like today, for example, we trained legs in the gym. Leg press, I went in there into that leg press thing. I said to Harv, I can't beat that last week. I literally cannot get that weight up anymore. So last week it was 200 kilos. He was like, no, we can do this easily. So we literally put on 1.25 kilos on each side. So it was an extra 2.5 kilos and smashed it. Like, it literally flew up. You guys can see the video here. It literally flew up and I was so happy. And yeah, I was literally kind of talking myself out of it, but I could do it. So with kind of that point there, you don't have to just progress obviously with weight. That could be tempos, it could be rest periods as well, shortening those. It could be so many different things, extra reps, etc. There's different ways to kind of progress, but you've got to make sure, I would really recommend, if you're not logging your lifts, don't overcomplicate it. Put it on your phones, on the notes on your phone, and actually kind of each week focus on kind of seeing, okay, what before you start your next set, what did you hit last week? And let's try and match that, or increase it by an extra rep, increase it by a little bit of weight. So my point there, like I said, are you pushing yourself? Progressive overload, sticking to the same program. If you're moving your training programs left, right, and center, changing things, obviously kind of having a new program every couple of weeks, you are not going to be able to kind of get actually stronger in that movement. So that is point number 1. Okay, so point number 2, rest and recovery. Now for myself, during prep, I trained 5 days per week. I struggled with it obviously because fatigue was incredibly high, etc. Once I'd finished competing, I was actually like, right, I'm going to trial 4 days per week. Ever since, I've never looked back. I have not gone back to training 5 days per week because for myself, I physically cannot recover that quickly. So I like to train 4 days per week. Now, it really is important that you know you cannot train every single day. You will want and you will need rest days. For example, I am absolutely exhausted now. After that leg day, I need a rest day. So tomorrow's rest day and I then go again on Sunday. So I train Monday rest day, Tuesday I train, Wednesday I train, Thursday rest, Friday train, Saturday I rest, and then Sunday I train. And that pretty much is my structure for my week, for my training. My my legs hurt. There's so many different things to kind of bear in mind, but it has to be suited to yourself. Now, I may need 3 days rest, someone else maybe need 4, someone else may need 2. It's so personalized, so really focus on actually making sure you have got enough rest in there. Deload weeks as well. I would always recommend having some deload weeks. If your intensity is that high, you're going to want a deload week at some point, so a week off of training. I would still recommend getting in some movement, so like potentially getting your cardio in as well, but just making sure you have got that rest and recovery. So that point number 2, rest and recovery. Make sure you're actually having adequate rest and recovery, focusing on that sleep. Sleep is the most underrated thing ever. Making sure you've got that bedtime routine in there. Of course, it doesn't have to be strict, but making sure you have got that routine set in place. Make sure you have enough rest and recovery. Make sure you're looking into your sleep and actually prioritizing that sleep as well, and it will really help with your training and just generally your kind of obviously growing muscle as a whole. I've literally just looked outside and it's currently, what time is it? 5:15, and it's pitch black, fully pitch black. But anyway, point number 3, calories. Now, you want to make sure if you are wanting to build muscle to either maintain, sit at maintenance, or actually focus on kind of a calorie surplus. Now, if I put a photo of myself here at, well, let's do it here. Let's do it this side. Week 1 of my growing phase, I was sitting at 3,100 calories. Nothing was changing. I hadn't focused on pushing calories up. So that's me in week 1. I was sitting at 3,100 calories, and this is me now sitting at 3,750 calories. Now, there's not that much difference, but obviously the calorie increase is quite significant. But my weight has now started obviously increasing. Now, of course, everybody is completely different, and I will say that straight away. You should never kind of compare your calories to somebody else's, and it's so important to know that my intake, if let's say I'm talking to one of you guys, you started eating what I did, started training how I did, would still look completely different. And it's the same if I tried to eating and training like someone else, still look completely different to them, because we all have different bodies, different genetics, different lifestyles, different time dedicated to actually certain goals, etc. So with obviously kind of your calories, you have to make sure you are obviously fueling your body, eating enough protein, and really focus on that protein intake. If you are not eating enough, you're going to feel weaker in those sessions, and therefore you're not going to be able to progressively overload in those sessions, which then we then go back to the kind of cycle where you're not building muscle. If you're wanting to build muscle, you have got to fuel your body. Obviously, just remember it's personalized to yourself. Really monitor your progress. So if you are finding that actually your weight is not kind of moving, keep a close eye on everything. Obviously, I would recommend tracking calories if you are happy to. It's not essential for everybody if you don't enjoy it, but I would recommend it. It helps with accuracy to a degree, but it's up to you. If you don't enjoy it, you don't have to do it, but maybe kind of keep a food diary. So maybe write down what you're consuming. There's so much to talk about in regards to calories. I think the key focus is you have to obviously focus on yourself here. You cannot compare yourself to someone else with your calorie intake. It's so important to know that. I think with that, you need to make sure you're obviously consistent, focusing on ticking those boxes, trying to be as consistent as you can. Now, of course, if you have a day off tracking, it's not going to ruin progress. Please do not feel like that whatsoever. But you do want to make sure you are being pretty like 80 to 90% consistent to the best of your ability. I'm really focusing obviously on getting that protein in, and of course, never compromising, like never missing out to carbs or fats. They're still very important. Having that balance there, and in each main meal, make sure you've got a portion of fruit and veg as well, and just really looking at your food intake so you can really actually make sure you're progressing alongside those goals, obviously, of wanting to build more muscle. So point number 4, holding yourself accountable. Now, what I mean by obviously hold yourself accountable. Now, if you don't have a coach, what I would still recommend is checking in with yourself. I don't have myself a coach, but what I still do every single week without failure, I still check in, holding yourself accountable by doing your check-ins, by doing obviously your photos, maybe some measurements as well, your weight as well, and just keeping an eye on how you're progressing. How is things moving? Do you need to start pushing yourself more? Do you need more food, more energy? Do you need to is your kind of weight just stabilizing? Of course. And it's not just about that weight, remember. It doesn't just mean because my weight stabilizing, push up more food. Actually, look at other variables as well. How is training performance going? Are you still getting stronger? Are you feeling energized? Are you feeling full? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling happy? How are visuals looking? And there's so many different factors to kind of bear in mind here, okay? You cannot just give yourself a couple of weeks and go, right, I've done my check-ins, there we go, done. And that's what you have to bear in mind, okay? You need to hold yourself accountable and enjoy the process. Now, it's very different. Everybody's obviously growing phase is going to be completely different. And it's so important to not compare your journey to someone else. Take inspiration from someone else, but don't copy them and don't compare yourself to them. And that is really also really important, because it's amazing to take inspiration from other people and actually use them as that motivation to keep you obviously going, but you cannot copy them because you'd still look completely different to them. And that's something to kind of bear in mind as well. And just know that obviously there are going to be days when maybe you don't feel as great in yourself. You're obviously building muscle. Let's say you're in a calorie surplus. Yes, you're going to gain some body fat. So we have to bear in mind that sometimes can make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. But if you're wanting to obviously take that seriously, you have to bear in mind that that is not a permanent permanent, I can never say that word, permanent feeling. It's a temporary feeling, and that's something to bear in mind. And that's when holding yourself accountable is so important at having those check-ins. So that is point number 4. I'm hoping I've summarized that up nicely. So point number 5, and you guys probably already know this, but it's time. Simple as that, time. Time is so important, and actually, if you're wanting to build muscle, dedicating enough time to this. And if you look at the 2 different photos here, week 1 and week 8, there's not that much difference. Yes, I feel better in myself, but there's not that much difference. Rome wasn't built in a night, neither are those glutes. I am not going to build those glutes any further in a night. So we have to bear in mind, for now, you just have to be consistent with it. And obviously there's that word again, consistent. But if you're wanting to build muscle, you actually have to give your journey time. You cannot expect to have built muscle in a couple of weeks. But it's very important to just know that actually everybody's journey will be different with length and obviously how long they need, etc. But it's so important to actually be patient. If you're wanting to build muscle, you have got to sit at that point and just rinse and repeat. And I say that word a lot, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And it's so important. And I know that can sometimes be quite tedious and kind of feel quite boring. But if you're really wanting to make a significant change to your physique with obviously more muscle, then you've got to be patient and you've got to obviously give your kind of journey time. But I am going to end that video here where I'm currently at, because I think I've spoken enough. I'm hoping I've given you some points. Obviously I can't give as much detail as I always want to, because I want to make sure my videos are not too long. I like 15 or 20 minutes roughly for my YouTube videos. So if you're wanting a part 2, let me know. I absolutely love doing these sit down chats. I feel like I can really talk about topics that I love and I'm very passionate about it, and something I could literally talk about for hours and hours and hours. To summarize my points, as we know I like to do. Point number 1, which is make sure you have got obviously that intensity there of your training. Point number 2 obviously is rest, making sure actually you have obviously got optimal rest in there, you're focusing on your sleep. Number 3, your food intake, making sure obviously you are focused on that, you're being consistent with your food intake. Number 4, obviously holding yourself accountable, doing your check-ins, enjoying the journey, knowing that there's always going to be bumps in the road. It's like a roller coaster, knowing that it's not always going to be sunny and shiny. There's always going to be some days which maybe don't feel as amazing, but remember that long term, how it make you feel, and just keep obviously consistent with that. And number 5, time. So that is my 5 points to help you obviously building muscle. Like I said, there's so much to cover there, like so much detail you could go into. But obviously I don't have the time to do that with a 20-minute video. It's quite hard. So please do obviously bear that in mind, okay? Any points you want me to, any videos, sorry, you want me to touch on, maybe that's focusing on training a bit more, how maybe training more to failure, kind of going through some videos like that. Maybe there's some sit down chats you want me to take you through. Please do let me know. I'm really wanting to film myself filming a mic'd up like video, but I'm just kind of like, it's very much out of my comfort zone. Just standing in the gym there with my, hello everyone. I'm like, oh God. So I was thinking maybe I start off by doing it at home. So if you want to do something like that, let me know. I'm happy to try it at home, see how I get on. We can always then progress it to the gym. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe. I am now off to go get myself a cocktail. I'm off out with Abs for some dinner and I cannot wait. So I'll catch you guys in the next video and I'll catch you then.